So, welcome back to the Charlie Cook Cricket Podcast. Today, we are going through the IPL preview. 10 teams. It could be the last year that we bow down to our Indian overlords until Saudi come in and take over and buy out cricket. I'm joined with Joe today. We are going to go through every single team, tell you who's good, tell you who's not, who's going to take the most wickets, who's going to take the most runs. We're going to go in order of how they play. So, we're going to start off with KKR. Joe, do you like this KKR team?
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because obviously lost. I mean, obviously the mega auction shook things up like across the board throughout the whole kind of competition. KK obviously lost a couple of big players. They obviously lost. I mean, I think the probably biggest one is Salt. Obviously, he's not been in the best nick anyway. We'll talk about, I'm sure, in a bit. But losing kind of Salt at the top of the order is a big blow. They've signed a couple of kind of exciting players who obviously brought in Quinn and de Kock essentially as Salt's replacement, right? There's quite an exciting opening partnership with likely Gurbaz, I'm guessing. They've also got Moeen Ali as well. So they've got a couple of good experienced players. I've still got Andre Russell, son of Ryan. I think like they went quite big in the mega auction on Venkateshwar, um, and that was a bit odd to me. Like some of the players, again, we'll talk about these guys in a bit, I'm sure, but some of the players who were going for like the big bucks in the auction with the likes of Pant, Shreyas Iyer, Kel Rahul, and then Venkatesh Iyer to go for however much it was like, was it pushing? It was over 20 crore. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it was around that mark, and that was a big risk. And I thought he was going to captain the side. So obviously, Rahane is now captain. I'm not sure about Rahane kind of long term in the side. Is he kind of good enough in that format anymore? I don't know. I mean, that's something we'll find out later on, kind of as the tournament goes along. So I think it's an odd squad. They've also got Brian Chakravarti as well, who I think naturally would have a six tournament. Like he's just incredible, and he like so no one can pick him. So I imagine he will do very well. As I say, Narayan and Russell still there. Rodman Powell as well in the squad. I love Rodman Powell. Like they've got a good squad. Spencer Johnson, but I don't think it's probably for me. It's not one of the better sides in the tournament. I think it's a little bit unbalanced, and I think going back to the auction, I think they got that a little bit wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously defending champions. They won it
Yep.
last year.
Yep.
Shreyas Iyer, who was their captain, they got outbid on him and then thought, oh, we'll take the bloke with the same surname and we'll go with Venkatesh and spent a load of money on him. Load of money, and they didn't even make him the captain, which I was just amazed by. Ajinkya Rahane had a really good IPL in 2023 where he struck at 172. Last year he struck at about 123. That is going to worry me because you're probably going to have to bat him at 3. You're missing Phil Salt, so you're not going to have that attacking opener as much. Quinton de Kock can do it, but I don't think of him just going out in the power play is as good as Phil Salt is. I'd be interested to see if they do the Sunil Narayan experiment on opening the batting again. If you do that, then I don't think Gurbaz fits into the side. I think it depends on how they want to play. Do they want to attack the power play again, or do they want to be a little bit more sensible? It's going to be an kind of an overarching thing over this tournament. Are we going to see 250 scores again, or are we playing around 170? Are we going to go back to that? I think that's going to be really interesting because if we're going 250s, then you probably gamble with Narayan. If we're looking at 170s, you probably go Gurbaz.
Yeah, and they could actually go kind of opposite in terms of going very kind of aggressive in the power play. They've actually got a lot of players who could fit in quite well in terms of like that aggressive manner down the order. They also got Rinku Singh, who's not going to be obviously batting low down the order, but he's been batting in the middle order. They've obviously got Venkatesh, who we've already mentioned. Um, then obviously you've got Sunil Ryan, who can bat. I mean, obviously you can whack it at the top of the order, but historically, it's only really the last few years he's been opening the batting. Historically, he whacks it at kind of 6, 7, 8 kind of area, and then I mentioned Rodman Powell, if they decide to play him. Obviously, Dre Russ, I assume, will play. So they actually could almost go the opposite, where you've got kind of De Kock and Gurbaz at the top of the order, Rahane at 3, and then that kind of middle to lower order is the kind of players who could really go for it. So
Yeah,
they can almost flip that on its head. But yeah, like I said, I'm not convinced by KPR. I do think they got the auction wrong. I think they probably kind of not bottled the whole thing with Shreyas Iyer, but from that kind of point on, they probably kind of lost their way a little bit, kind of messed up the plans.
yeah, and
Yeah.
their mystery spin's going to be really good.
Yep.
In Varun Chakravarti, Sunil Narayan obviously is still a pretty good bowler. Their pace bowling worries me slightly. They've got Nokia in there, but he always seems to be injured. Relatively inexperienced with Harshit Rana. I know he's starting to become a bit more of a household name. You've got Aurora in there that I don't think I've actually necessarily heard of until I was doing this IPL preview. I think he played a bit last year. But all relatively inexperienced in that pace attack. And I'm not 100% sure that I'd be amazed if they're pushing for a title again. I'd be amazed if I think they're going to be around that fifth, sixth mark. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. What do you reckon? Playoffs for them, or do you reckon
No, I don't
that's
think. I don't think. I've kind of settled on my playoff sides already, or at least three of the four, and I think they'll probably miss out. I think they could potentially do worse. It depends on fitness, like you say. Nokia seems to be injured quite a lot, and then like they've got a lot of experience, but how quality that experience is now, I don't know. And yeah, I'm not sold on Rahane. I think he's obviously a very good player and had a good IPL, like you say, a couple of years back. But last year was a worry, and then I just don't really know if Rahane is going to be the right long-term fit for them. But they've got a lot of experience, and experience does carry a lot of weight, so they could
yeah,
potentially
yeah. And
get a
I'm
comeback.
never quite sold on De Kock either. I don't think I've ever actually seen him score a run. I know that sounds ridiculous because it's Quinton de Kock and he's a really good player. But I cannot remember a time where I've watched him and sat down and saw him score loads of runs. It always could be a bit hit and miss with him. Solo Narayan, I think they go with Narayan opening the batting. I don't think they go for Gurbaz. I think Narayan offers you a lot more at the top of the order, just giving it a whack as that pinch hitter, and
Yep.
you obviously get the mystery spin out of him. I'd be amazed if they go with Gurbaz to open. If it doesn't work like it worked last year with Salt, then yeah, they'll probably go to Gurbaz. But at this point, I could probably see Narayan opening the batting. But no,
Yep.
I agree with you. I cannot see KKR making the playoffs at this point. Let's go on to RCB. 18 years now that haven't won an IPL. A team with fans that are absolutely crazy for the team. I mean, ridiculous support they have. Obviously, Virat's still there. Still not captain for some reason. Why can't they just give him the captaincy back? They've given it to Rajat Patidar this year, and you just think, oh, hey, fine. That doesn't really fill me with any excitement. I like this RCB team. So what do you reckon?
Yeah, I like it, and I think they can do a lot of good things, especially with the bat. I think all three, they've got three English players. That's obviously Liam Livingston, Phil Salt, who, as I said, has been a bit out of form. Livingston obviously has as well, and Jacob Bethel. I do think all three will actually play. Um, I think we could be looking at kind of their top five, three of their top five there. I'm hoping Livingston gets a chance up the order because for me, that's where he plays his best. That's where I've always kind of seen him play his best for Lancs in T20 cricket. Obviously, England has played, kind of batted further down the order, but hopefully he kind of gets that chance up the order for RCB. And then obviously
Mm.
they've got Virat, and he's been in great form in the Champions Trophy. And I think it's come. I think I said this after we spoke about the Champions Trophy. It's kind of come at the best time, that form for Virat, because carrying that into the IPL is just a dream for him and for RCB. So I think that especially with the bat, I think they can do a lot of good. Obviously, picking the three English players would mean you probably leave out Tim David, which is a big call. I think they paid like 3 crore for him, something like ridiculous like that. They got an absolute steal for him. Um, and he's not been in the best form, so I don't think that'll be too kind of I'm sorry, I'm talking longer term here, like 18 months not been the best one. So I don't think they'll be too kind of worried about leaving him on the bench at the start of the competition, given they didn't pay much for him. Obviously, Josh Hazelwood, I assume, will play. And their bowlers has got experience, but I think that's probably where they're kind of let down a little bit. I'd say, obviously, Hazelwood and Bhuvanesh Kumar are kind of the leaders of that attack. And I'm not sure about that in 2025. Obviously, a couple of years back, they'd have been great. And I think both are great bowlers, but in T20 cricket specifically, I don't know. I definitely think the Australia side would move on from Hazelwood, in particular. So there's a lot of exciting things that they can do, particularly with the bat, and I think that's where they'll really win games.
Yeah, I don't have Bethel in my predicted 11. I'd
Yeah,
love to see
fair
him
enough.
in it. I think the reason that you'd pick him is that there is really not that many spinners around in this RCB side. They are lacking. quality spinners. I mean,
Yep,
they're going to
I would agree.
have to get a lot from probably Livingston, probably Krunel Pandya. So if Bethel can give you 2 or 3 overs with a bit of spin, do you go with him? I've got Tim David in the side because I think that everyone just falls for the Tim David stuff of the,
I
oh,
rate Tim David. Like, I know
I
obviously, I think
don't.
he's quite a Marmite player. He's probably one of the cricketers in the world who splits opinion more than many, at least. I think he's a very Marmite player, like I say. But I really rate him when he's on it. But then again, obviously, he's kind of maybe is he an on his day player kind of thing. But yeah, sorry, I kind of cut you off.
Yeah, no, I mean it's going back to that Quinton de Kock thing. I've never seen him score a run. I don't think I've ever seen him score a run. Just,
Fair.
I don't buy it. But I think that they'll pick him. I think Bethel will come in later on the tournament, and I hope he does. Um, I like Phil Salt at the top of the order. I like Virat Kohli at the top of the order. I think those two are going to pair very well together.
I was about to say, yeah, that'd be a great partnership. Yeah.
With obviously Virat liking to take his time, Phil Salt not liking to take his time. I think it's a really good side. I've got them making the playoffs.
Interesting. I think they'll just miss out on the playoffs. I think they'll be in that conversation, but I think they'll be one of the sides. I mentioned earlier, I'm kind of set on 3 out of 4 sides. They're one of the sides I was kind of unsure of, but I've said it now. So I think they'll just miss out on the playoffs a little bit. But it'll be close. I think it'll be very close.
Yeah, I think if Livingston can go, I think he's going to bat 5 or 6. If he can go towards the end, I think that's going to be really good. I think they're going to score. They're going to have quick partnerships at the top. I think they're going to have enough. They've probably got enough part-time spin just to get through without that frontline spinner. I think Livingston's got a lot better with the ball. I think he's going to be really big for him, Liam Livingston.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
probably sometimes not the player you want to rely on because he can be a little bit hit and miss. And we're talking about dividing opinions. Liam Livingston is definitely one of those players. But I really like this RCB side. If Virat can have a good year, I mean, he had a sensational year last year. If he can carry that on and just get good starts with Phil Salt, be 75 for no loss after 6 overs, I think this team could go really far. And I fancy them this year, I really do. Moving on to SRH, Sunrisers Hyderabad, runners up last year. They've probably got one of the most explosive top orders that you will ever see in T20 cricket, with Travis Head, Abhishek Sharma, Ishan Kishan, and Klaasen in a top 4 is just absolutely ridiculous. You've then got Nitish Kumar Reddy probably coming in at number 5. It kind of drops away after that, though. I think, Joe, I think you were quite high on Sunrisers. What do you
Yeah,
think on this side?
I rate them highly, and I think if they come off, which I think they will, because firstly, Ishan Kishan seems to be in fantastic form. I don't know if you've seen his numbers in the warm-up games, but he scored a century and then like a rapid half century or 50 plus score, and then I think he got 49 not out or something like that. So Ishan Kishan seems to be in like exceptional form. Obviously, Travis Head and Abhishek Sharma was probably well, maybe one of the best ever IPL opening partnerships.
Hmm.
Kind of in terms of one individual season last year, they were fantastic, weren't they? And then obviously Klaasen is just brilliant. So I think obviously they're going to be relying on that kind of top 4. Nitish Kumar already obviously proved that he's a superb batter in the Bordeaux Gavaskar Trophy over the winter, and obviously different formats as I say, stuff like that carries. Um, they'll obviously be relying on that top 4 and 5, but I just think there's something about them. I just think getting those 4 players out in kind of isolation, just those 4 players, is going to be very hard. At least one of them is likely to come off every game, I think. And that's why I think they'll do so well. And then they do have players down the order who can whack it. I mean, Pat Cummins, firstly, he hits a long ball. Obviously, depending on where he bats, he will. Well, I assume he won't bat higher than 8. Then obviously you've got Rian Mulder as well, who might play. I mean, he's a top 4 batter in my opinion. He's way too good to be coming in number 6. Then again, putting Rian Mulder in as much as it kind of extends their batting lineup, reduces their bowling a little bit because then they can't play Adam Zampa, and then they've only got one spinner, Chahal. So I think you mentioned that on Twitter to me. I think I spoke about that on Twitter. That's kind of where their weakness lies, and I definitely agree with that. But I just think that top 4 if I think one of them will fire, at least one of them will fire every game. I think they're
Yeah,
too good not to. So
I
that's why
mean,
I think they'll do well.
what do you think their four overseas are going to be? Because Travis Head, Pat Cummins, and Klaassen are obviously nailed in, and then you can go. It's probably you've got Van Mulder, Kamindu Mendes, and Adam Zampa. Um, Mulder obviously strengthens your seam attack. Kamindu Mendes will strengthen the batting and can bowl right arm and left arm spin. And then you've obviously got Adam Zampa, who gives you another spin option. So I guess it's dependent on conditions. I'd probably put Mulder in there. I'd be tempted with Kamindu Mendes, but I'm not 100% sure. He's a world class T20 player. I think he's a world class test player. That left arm, right arm spin would interest me though, for a matchups reason.
Yep, I would agree with that. I also think it depends on opponent. For example, against RCB, Adam Zampa's straight in the side for me because we know Virat
Mm.
struggles against leg spin, hates facing Zampa particularly. So there's just in terms of matchups, there's kind of one off the top of my head. That's I think it'll be they'll be very flexible with that. And look, obviously three of the overseas players are guaranteed Cummins ahead Klassen, and then it is kind of picking one out of those three. Um, if I had to say who they should go for, in my opinion, I think I would probably go Bial Mulder. Just for, again, I think he's a class player. We saw him in SA20. He was like coming in in those kind of final 5, 6 overs. He was just explosive for Durham Super Giants. So that kind of ability that he has at that kind of in those kind of death overs, sorry, is just brilliant. And obviously strengthens the seam attack as well.
They've
But
also
yeah, I think it's something they're going to be flexible about. So.
Yeah, I mean, and they've also added Chami as well, which is a ridiculous addition to this
Oh
side.
yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think their kind of battery of like local bowlers is good. Like obviously, I mean, Mitchell already obviously can bowl. Undercat's obviously an experienced bowler as well, so they've definitely got good options. I just think they're going to do well. I also think a large reason why they'll do well is because of Pat Cummins, one of the best captains for me of all time in terms of creating a good culture, a winning culture. Obviously, they get over the line last year, but that was a one-off final. They were the best team in the competition, kind of undisputably. And in terms of creating that winning culture, Cummins has so much experience with Australia. He's won everything. And that's why another reason that I think they will do so well because he's the captain. For me, he's, as I say, probably one of the best captains of all time, certainly in my lifetime in this century. So yeah, I think they'll do really well. I do.
I have them missing out on the playoffs. I
Interesting.
don't have them in my top four. I think that lack of middle order, you being so reliant on absolutely having those three overseas players in your side, is just going to stop you from having a little bit of flexibility. I don't think Pat Cummins is a great T20 bowler. I think he's a good T20 bowler. I don't think he's a great one. Similar with Shami. Shami's probably better than Pat Cummins, but it's not his strongest format by far. I'm not sold on it. This team could score 300 every game and prove me wrong. I am more than happy for this to happen. But at this moment in time, there are other teams that I like more than Sunrisers. So
Um,
I'm going to go with them finishing outside the top four.
Fair enough. I will say about Cummins and Mohamed Shami's, I think they'll benefit from this new second ball after 10 overs, 11 overs, whatever it is, rule, because that kind of brings them back into the game for me. And obviously, it's not a brand new ball. It's going to be kind of relative to the condition of the previous one. But excuse me. But I just think they'll benefit massively from that, kind of obviously not having dew on the ball. And I expect Sunrisers will bat first where possible.
They
And
did it
just
most of the time last year, didn't they? They
exactly, yeah.
batted
And they
first.
just bat teams out of the game. And that's what I'm talking about when I say relying on the top four. At least one of them is probably going to fire. I mean, as I say, Kishan seems in ridiculous form. And obviously, we know how good the other three are.
Mm,
So, assuming one of those four fires and other people chip in, they might just bat teams out of the game. And that's why I think they'll do so well. So, yeah, it'll
yeah.
be interesting to see how they go on.
All right, moving on to my team, Rajasthan Royals. They made the playoffs last year and actually had a really good side. However, this year they have screwed up the auction more than any other team. I was going through the squad list on ESPN Cricket Info in preparation of IPL previews and stuff. Every other team has like 6 or 7 all rounders on their team's page. Um, However, Rajasthan Royals have one. They have Hasaranga. They do not have another all rounder in their side. They picked up Jofra Archer, who I don't think has ever made it through an IPL without getting injured. Um, they just worry me, this team. I think they're comfortably the worst team in the whole competition, which upsets me because I like Rajasthan Royals and they're my team. They're probably going to go with, also with Sanju Samson coming out that he's injured for the first 3 games. I think he's going to play as a batter only.
Is the
And he's
impact
going,
player, I think, right?
yeah, and then he'll give the captaincy to Parag for the first 3 games. What do you think of my Rajasthan Royals?
I completely agree that they completely bottled the auction. I don't know why they didn't retain Butler in the first place. That's probably the worst decision of in terms of like the retainees going back months
So
and months now.
I've heard something about this, and apparently the reason they didn't retain him in the IPL was because Butler said that he wasn't going to play in the SA20 because he wanted to concentrate on the India series and the Champions Trophy for England. The Royals owners got upset by that, so didn't retain him in the retentions for the IPL. That's the story that I've heard behind it. It's not because they didn't want to keep him, it's because they had a falling out.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of politics in terms of ownership in franchise cricket, which is a whole different conversation for another day. But regardless, they still should have retained him, like, just kind of swallow your pride kind of thing. And he's one of the. I know he's been in sort of patchy form of late, but it's Josh Butler. He's one of the most historically destructive IPL owning batters, and he's like a key for their side. So him and Jaiswal was such a good opening pair. So I'm firstly just generally quite disappointed we won't see that. Uh, Samson's obviously a great player. Samson and Jaiswal will still be a good opening partnership. Um, but I just think they got the auction so wrong. You mentioned not enough all rounders. Archer's one of my favourite players in recent times, and I mean his kind of injury record is really worrying. And they don't really have much quick bowling experience outside of that. I mean Faruqi's obviously very good. I assume he'll play. I'm guessing he'll play.
If you
Um,
can fit him in, I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? You think that Hasaranga has to
yeah,
play? That
that's
they spent a load of money on
Hassan will
Hetmeyer.
100% play.
They spent a load of money on Jofra Archer, and you'd imagine Theekshana's going to play. So
Yeah, of course, football teacher. China. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Well, there you go. I guess it's poor planning again. It comes down to Hetmeyer's explosive but inconsistent. But when he gets going, he whacks it. I thought he was really disappointing last year in the IPL. And yeah, Mafaka's just a very good prospect, but not experienced. And if you kind of rely on someone like that, even not picking someone up like Nandre Berger, who obviously they had in 2024, for me, that was a mistake because, well, not necessarily specifically Nandre Berger, but someone like that, they use him often as that kind of impact sub. And he made such an impact off the bench, being able to bowl 90 miles an hour consistently. I remember there was one spell that he bowled, I can't remember who it was against. I want to say Delhi Capitals, and he just bounced a few players out. Um, and yeah, for me, they've got the option massively wrong, and I don't see them doing particularly well. I think they will potentially finish rock bottom, but they'll definitely be kind of 8, 9, 10 kind of area.
yeah, I mean, how they won games last year was Nandre Berger and Trent Bolt taking early wickets.
Trent Ball's another one. Yep. Yeah.
And I don't understand what they've done. I really don't understand what they've done. Um, they needed. I don't like the Jofra Archer pickup from an England point of view because I think he's going to get injured, and from a Rajasthan Royals point of view because I don't buy it. I just don't think it's going to be
I
good.
think
I don't
the thing
know.
with Archer, relying on Archer as your frontline quickies, there's nothing wrong with that. As I say, he's one of my favourite players in the world. When Archer's on it, and I think he was good in the Champions Trophy, he's unstoppable.
Hmm.
But if you have to manage his fitness, and England have done that pretty well. They've slowly brought him back to the point now where he can consistently play. But the IPL's short and snappy. There's a lot of games in a short space of time, and if you're relying on Archer, let's just say RRR kind of pushing for playoffs at the end.
Mm.
Towards the back end, Archer's going to be playing a lot of cricket. That's a lot of overs, and relying on him is potentially risky. And hopefully, his body doesn't break down essentially. Um, which will obviously, from us speaking from an England point of view, will be disappointing, and also from just an IPL point of view, will be a shame. So I think Royal got it massively wrong, and I do think they'll struggle greatly.
Yeah, I'm ready for a season of disappointment. A team I do actually like the look of, CSK. Um, just missed out on a playoff spot last year. It came down to a kind of net run rate scenario in a game with them and RCB. And RCB, after winning about 17 games in a row, managed to get through to the playoffs. They just missed out. It's obviously CSK. They've won loads of IPLs before. And they've gone really, really spin heavy to match their home conditions. They're probably going to go in with at least Ashwin, Jadeja, Noor Ahmed, and Rachin Ravindra at some point, which is just ridiculous. They've got all rounders in there. They've got some explosive batting. They've still got Dhoni. They still roll him out in a wheelchair to come out and bat and keep wicket for him. I like CSK this year. CSK could be my pick to go and win it all.
I like CSK, but I worry about their kind of have they they've gone spin heavy for a reason. You mentioned obviously playing at home, but how is that going to come back to bite them when they're not playing at home? That's the only concern I have with, or like I guess the overarching concern. I'm not really sold on someone like Pasarana. I know he obviously isn't a guarantee to play. I don't. I think he's just not really kind of. I think he's a good prospect, but I don't think he's really there yet. Um,
Mm.
Sam Curran is I'm a big fan of his. But as a kind of wicket-taking attacking bowler, I don't know if he's kind of going to play that role. And Jamie Overton, similar, kind of again a very good player, but I don't know if he's that wicket-taking attacking bowler. Um, that I don't really necessarily think they have from a kind of pace bowling point of view, unless I'm kind of missing someone. I think that could potentially be their downfall. They're the biggest reason they do have that downfall. But in terms of at home, I don't think many teams will be able to beat them. They're just going to
No.
kind of um, kind of flood teams out with spin, I guess. And I'd be surprised if um, we didn't see that quartet that you mentioned, all playing at once. And I will say, Rachin Ravindra, I'm hoping people have kind of been debating him or Conway to open the batting. I'm hoping it's Ravindra. I don't know why it wouldn't be.
I, I,
He was in.
I keep getting it. I kept getting
For me,
comments
it's not a debate.
of oh yeah, no, they'll probably pick Conway. I'm like, are you stupid? I have again. We go back to I've never seen Conway score a run. Definitely in the last.
Against England.
I worked it out. I have Conway has been in bad form since the very first MLC, where he scored a bucket load of runs in the MLC playing for the Unicorns or the Orcas, or I don't even know what the teams are called over there. It's on at the middle of the night. I don't watch it. But I just think you've got to go with Conway. He's just come off an incredible. No, you've got to go with Ratchet Ravindra. He's just come off an incredible Champions Trophy. He loves scoring runs in Asia. He does it for fun. You have to pick him. If they don't, and also you get the spin option. You don't get that with Devon Conway. You're not going
You
to have
also
Conway.
don't need Conway to keep because you got
No,
Dhoni.
Dhoni
So
can't do anything else. He can't run. He's 78. He can't run. Just pick Ratchet Ravindra. If I see Devon Conway starting for CSK at all in this side with Ratchet Ravindra sat on the bench, I'm going to break my TV because that is such a stupid idea. One other seam bowler they have, and one of your they got Nathan Ellis, didn't they?
Oh yeah, well I kind of skipped over Ellis in terms of the seam bowling options to talk about him, but then I forgot to talk about him. I saw you talk about him on TikTok. I call him one of the best T20 bowlers in the world or whatever it was. And as I've kind of said on your podcast and on Twitter many times, I completely agree. For me, he's one of the best death
Yeah,
bowlers
you've
in the
converted
world.
me to a Nathan Ellis believer.
I just think he's brilliant. Like he's obviously not going to go and get you kind of 2, 3 wickets a game, so he's not necessarily going to be the attacking quick bowler that I mentioned. But I think they have to find a way to play him. And looking at the overseas players, I mean, I would personally go with Curran, Ellis. Noor Ahmed and Ravindra as my overseas for CSK because I think that they offer you good balance. Curran can pretty much bat anywhere from, well, really the top of the order, not like, but can pretty much open the batting and bat anywhere until 8, 9.
Mm.
So you've got great flexibility there. Ellis is as I say, for me, one of the best death bowlers in the world. Noor Ahmed, struggling in the Champions Trophy, but generally he's class. So for me, they've got good overseas options, but as I say, it's that lack of a wicket-taking seamer, a Bumrah, that kind of a bowler, an X-factor, quick bowler who's going to go and get you 3, 4, 5 wickets a game, could kind of cost them. Maybe not at home, but definitely away from home. So I think for me, I've just got this may be controversial. I've just got CSK missing out. They were another side I was debating with. I've just got them missing out of the playoffs because for that reason, essentially. But I think they're a good team and they could definitely go far. And look, as I said, I've said a couple of times, experience carries. And when you've got, Dhoni, Dubé, Jadeja, Ashwin particularly, Gaikwad as well is very experienced and obviously is now the leader of the side. Um, that counts for so much. And I do think they could go far. But personally, I've got them just missing out on the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I've got them challenging for the title. I think they're going to be really, really good this year. I fancy them. Another team that I like, Mumbai Indians. They
Mhm.
were somehow the worst team in the whole of the competition last year. Nothing to do with cricket. They all fell out. The dressing room was completely split between whether you were on Rohit's side or you were on Hardik Pandya's side with the captaincy. Rohit was captain in all formats for India at the time. They brought in Hardik Pandya. They did a weird trade with Gujarat, got him into the side, gave him the captaincy straight away. And it was very, very strange. If they can sort those problems out, which I think they will, we've obviously seen Rohit, we've seen Hardik Pandya play together in the Champions Trophy. They've won 2 titles since the last IPL together, the T20 World Cup and the Champions Trophy. I expect this team to be really good, depending on when they get Jasprit Bumrah back. Now, it looks like he's going to miss 3, 4, maybe 5
I read
games.
early April. I think I read that on Crick Info. I might be wrong there, but I'm pretty sure that's where I read it. Um, but yeah, I really like Mumbai Indians, and I have them honestly quite comfortable making the playoffs. I mean, they're a ridiculous team on paper. Obviously, last year was very much a behind the scenes kind of
Mm,
thing that you've just gone into all that. Whenever they get Bumrah back, obviously, it's going to be massive. They're just a sick team, really. Tilak Varma's ridiculous. Surya Kumarov's brilliant player. Rohit Sharma's obviously quality. Then you got Bumrah. You've got in terms of overseas players, obviously you've got Trent Bolt, Mitchell Sander. Ryan Rickleton's made a very good case for him playing. I definitely would look to bring him into the side. They've also got Reece Topley, Will Jackson. There's so many good players in this side, and I think it's kind of not impossible for them to fail. Obviously, we saw that last year, but in many ways, it is. Um, Mujib's another one who they've got. So like, I just think they're a brilliant side, and I think I said on TikTok that they've got another exciting side because last year they absolutely did. Um, Obviously, it didn't kind of work out for them. They didn't. That's not to say that they performed well. Obviously, they didn't, but they're still on an exciting side, and I think that can kind of carry over to this year. They've retained their core local talent, like their big kind of 5 players, and I just think they're brilliant. I also want to kind of touch on Bevan John Jacobs because I don't know if he'll get a game. I really hope he does because this player is, for me, the future of New Zealand cricket alongside Rachin Ravindra. These kind of players. He's just fantastic. Absolutely brilliant down the ground. Brilliant square of the wicket as well. A destructive middle order player. And I hope he gets a chance. I don't know how or if he will.
mm.
Um, but I'm hoping he does because he's brilliant. What a pickup. I want to say like 30 lakh or something like that they spent on him. I know it's definitely less, at least less than a crore. A ridiculous pickup in the auction. And Mumbai Indians talent spotting over the years have been mint, but this is definitely one of the best because now they've got him for the next 3 years guaranteed, and then obviously or however many years it is guaranteed, then obviously
Mm.
can retain him. So Bevan John Jacobs is definitely kind of one to watch because he's
Yeah.
quality.
Who do you have opening for him? I've gone with Rohit Sharma and Ryan Rickleton as my openers.
Yeah, so I go Rohit, Rickleton, Tilak as a top three, and then probably Sky. And then this is where they can kind of, well, that's where Bevan John Jacobs fits in at 5. So that's where he bats. It also wouldn't surprise me if they tried to play someone like Will Jacks.
I've got Will
Um,
Jacks at 5, and I'm so excited about Will Jacks
I,
at 5
I would
because
agree with that.
I
Yeah,
I am in the boat of let's turn Will Jacks into Moeen Ali. That's my plan, and I'm so excited by it, and I
well,
really hope they
I
bat in
I
5 or 6.
I would agree with Will Jacks in the middle order because he's not going to get like into the top of the order because Roach there. Rickleton surely will play again. Rickleton cost him nothing, didn't he? He was such a bargain pickup. I don't know if that was 50. Was that 50 lakh?
It
Rickleton.
was cheap.
Something ridiculous. Again, I think that was less than a crore. This is what I mean about Mumbai. They can go and retain like Pandya, Rohit Sharma, Sky, Bumrah, Tilak Varma because they just go and buy such cheap bargain pickups in the auction. Santner, another one, just didn't cost them much.
I don't
Um,
think Will
but
Jacks was
yeah,
stupid money either. I think it was like
they're just
8
they're
crore.
in terms of yeah, exactly. In terms of like bargains in the auction, they're just like they hit the nail on the head. I don't know if you've ever seen like the old Mumbai Indians Netflix documentary from like 2018. But even then, they were just so smart. And I love what they've done with the side. As I said, they're one of the most exciting sides in the competition. I don't think they'll win it, um, but I think they'll at least make playoffs. So yeah, for me, I'm excited. Wheeljacks, hopefully, as you say, middle order Wheeljacks could be scary for opposition there. But yeah, no, I'm excited about that Mumbai side.
Yeah, and they bat deep as well. They're going to have Santner coming in
Yeah,
at like 8, which is just going to give license for Rickleton and Rohit Sharma just to absolutely smash it at the top.
yeah.
There's going to be some big scores, and
They have got
they've
mystery spin as well. I will say mystery spin obviously so important. And obviously they got Mujib, who if they so choose can obviously come into the side. So look when you've got someone like the core five local players that they've got, I just mentioned a second ago, they're going to do well. Obviously last year was
they've
a bit
got
of an
Bumrah.
anomaly.
They've no, even if they've only got Bumrah for 10 games this year, they've still got Bumrah. He is
And
the best cricketer on the planet.
comfortably, yeah, comfortably. And the thing with Bummer is if he, as you said, only played 10 games. He could easily still finish with a purple cap at the end of the competition. Like, I predicted Bumrah to finish as one of the three leading wicket takers in the competition, knowing he was injured at the start of the competition because it's Bumrah. Like, he could just Mumbai Indians could struggle at the start of the competition. Get Bumrah back, lifts them, and bang, they're kind of flying. So yeah, I like this Mumbai side.
Yeah, I like this Mumbai side. I've got them hitting. I've got them in the playoffs, if not challenging
I
for a
agree.
title.
I
Um,
would agree.
I think they're going to be really good this year. Um, Delhi Capitals finished mid-table last year, nearly made the playoffs. Um, they've been slightly screwed over with Harry Brook pulling out so close to the tournament. It's kind of ruined some of how they were going to go with it. It wouldn't have even surprised me if they would have put Harry Brook to open, because he saw some success when he was in when he played for the Sunrisers in 23. I think that screwed them over slightly, and I still don't agree with the reason that Harry Brooks pulled out of the IPL, but it's his decision at the end of the day. I think he was just going to miss a huge kind of chance to develop his game more than he probably should have. What do you reckon?
Um, in terms of the Brook thing, I honestly kind of think fair enough. Um, it's look, internet. I think I tweeted this at the time. International, like elite international players play 10 months of the year. I understand, obviously, I kind of see your point about him developing his game and his spin and things like that. But if he kind of feels like he needs a break, I guess, from the game, then fair
Hmm.
enough. So I obviously kind of don't disagree with you in terms of it would have been good for him to develop his game. But kind of on the flip side of that, I think if someone needs a break to look kind of look after themselves essentially, which is kind of what I gathered from reading his statement, then fair enough. So yeah, like I say, I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying. It's a shame. And Delhi Capitals are the side I kind of picked last year. I never had a side before 2024. Picked them randomly. So I was obviously excited when we signed, but it was I understand. Like I'm sure he's obviously banned now for the IPL for how many years. So
It's
that's
2028 he can next play. He'll be
yeah. I think he'll be like almost
29.
30, won't he, when he can
Yeah.
next play in the IPL? So it is what it is. It's a shame, but like in terms of from an England point of view, I guess we'll have Harry Brook back for the summer. England aren't playing in spinning conditions and too much for the next 12 months. So I guess don't worry about that from
No, I guess not.
that kind of point of
Um,
view. But I don't disagree with you saying 100%.
they've got an interesting top three of what I've got them at the moment. I've got Fraser McGurk opening for them.
I would agree. Yep.
I've got Kale Rahul opening for them.
Yep.
Or you could switch it with Faf, whichever way you want to do it.
Yep.
I've got that three. Fraser McGurk has been in one of the worst forms we've seen a player get into after he really showed out in last year's IPL. Since then, he hasn't really scored a run, with the exception of this warm-up game that he scored 100 off about 20 deliveries. Absolutely whacked it everywhere.
And the
Now,
team scored 289 in that innings. I'm pretty sure something like that. Yeah, Fraser Murgut's been in horrible form, hasn't he, over the last 12 months, pretty much.
mm,
Terrible in the Big Bash. Apart from one time we got 89 or something. I think the big thing with Fraser McGurk is he's just form carries, momentum carries for him. And he's the kind of guy who needs to be in form. And if he is in form, he's going to go and get you consistently 40, 50 off to a flyer. Um, I think the big thing with Fraser McGurk, the big kind of tell for me is if he's in form, is if his feet are moving. If his feet are moving, I know he's not kind of someone who's got a big trigger movement or he's not a big kind of mover of his feet, but even just a tiny little bit, sometimes he could just be too still. And that's obviously where he can kind of get into trouble. But I think if his feet are moving a little bit, then he's looking good. And I saw the highlights from that kind of practice match like Daily Capital posted, and he looked like that was kind of happening. He looked like his feet were going a bit more. And accessing other parts of the ground, kind of giving himself room hitting over cover. So hopefully he can kind of back himself into form. In terms of KL Rahul, I want to see him open the batting, but I'm not convinced he will. And Mike Heston actually tweeted something quite interesting. He said, of course, KL can bat below three. He has the skill to bat anywhere. Um, the question should be, what does Delhi need from KL to win games? He's one of the only batsmen in the world that can bat anywhere. So why not take on the hardest job, getting the team over the line in a chase? And I thought that was pretty interesting. And I've never seen it from that point of view, or kind of like looked at it from that point of view. But I thought that was such an interesting point of he is probably the most versatile batter in the world. Like
mm,
literally any conditions, he's going to try and step up and do a job for his side. And perhaps that's Delhi Capital's downfall is that kind of 5-6 area. So putting KL down the order maybe isn't the worst decision. I also think Stubbs will bat up, therefore up the order. So I think you probably got Fraser McGurk, Faf, Stubbs as your top three. Um, and then
I've
you've
got
obviously got
Purell,
Rahul,
Axar.
Burrell as kind of 4, 5, 6. And then that's a really nice kind of platform to go off. And obviously Stark's going to play. And I love the bowling attack. You've also got Rizvi as well, who will probably play. I love the bowling attack. Stark, T Nasaraj was someone I was so excited to sign. I was kind of tweeting the whole auction, sign T Nasaraj. I hope we sign T Nasaraj. We brought him in. I was buzzing with that. So experienced. A little bit injury prone, brilliant. Mohit's a great bowler as well, great option. Mukesh Kumar's experience. But they've got that wicket taker in Stark, and I mentioned for CFK that I think that's what they lack is that like leader of the attack who's just going to blow teams away. And Delhi Capital's almost focused on that, I think, in many ways. Brought Stark in the auction, obviously paid a hefty price for him, but you have to pay that premium to get someone like Mitchell Stark. And obviously, then you've got, as I already mentioned, obviously Atsar. So yeah, a Kuldeep as well as another one. So they're covered in all bases, I think, in a lot of ways. So interesting to see. I think Donovan Ferreira is also a good option.
Hmm.
He was a good
Was
shooter.
that?
So yeah,
I think it's really going to help them that Kuldeep and Axar both bowl together often.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so we'll give you that, and also you trust Axar to bowl in the power play as well, which can give them another
yes,
option.
massively, yeah,
There's not many spinners that can bowl in the power play. We even actually saw Kuldeep do it in the Champions Trophy as well, of
exactly.
bowling in the
Yeah.
power play. So that's an interesting way that they can go. I think that seam bowling attack is actually really good. With
I agree.
Stark, Mukesh Kumar, Mohit Sharma, I think that's probably going to be the solid three.
I think
Axar
Nasraj
Patel,
will play as well, and one of them will be at impact, depending on.
yeah, probably.
And then Porel or Risby will also be an impact. Sorry, yeah, correct.
Yeah, and then you've obviously got, I think Axar Patel knowing that he can give you 4 overs and he's going to bat 5 or 6 is really helpful as well.
Yeah,
I think they're a really good side. I like other sides more than them. I've got them just missing out on playoffs.
I've got them just sneaking in. Maybe that's because I say that's the side I chose to follow. Maybe that's more kind of biased. I don't really have too much of an attachment, but maybe that's kind of more biased from me. But I do think they'll just sneak in. They've kind of got, particularly in the bowling attack, they've kind of got everything I look for in T20 attack. Left arm spinner, left arm wrist spinner is a luxury, but incredible option. Two left armers in Stark and Natarajan. Kind of just good, accurate bowlers in Mohit and Mukesh. I think they're a really good side and I'm excited to see what they do. So yeah, I'm intrigued by Delhi Capital.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I think they could be really good. I just feel like there is every time I look at that team, I'm like, everyone's going to go well, and your difference maker is going to be someone like Fraser McGurk, who's
Yep.
going to, if he gets you off to that flyer, then you're going to win a lot of games. If all of a sudden you're 10 for 2, I think you're going to struggle in a lot of games. And there just feels like there's a little bit too much pressure, whether it's KL Rahul, whether it's Faf, whether it's Fraser McGurk opening that batting,
Or
just
subs.
or Stubbs coming in at 3. There's just a little bit too much pressure. I'm not 100% sold on that, and I think it's definitely becoming a batters league. And if you don't get off to a fast start, then you struggle to win games in the IPL, and that's where I sit with the Delhi Capitals. Moving on to Lucknow Super Giants, finished mid-table last year. They've probably got one of the most ridiculous top fives. I mean, we were talking about the Sunrisers kind of top order. Their top 5 is probably going to be Rishabh Pant, Mitch Marsh if he's fit, Markram, Nicholas Puran, David Miller, and you might even fit Bretsky in there as well. That seems ridiculous. If I had to pick a team that's going to score 300 this tournament, it's probably LSG.
It's ridiculous depth. There's a lot of left-handers. That's probably my kind of one concern. Obviously, you've got Pora left-hander, Miller left-hander, Pant left-hander. That's three left-handers in your top five. It's not actually it's not as bad as I thought it was in my head. Not gonna lie, having said it out loud, but still, you could look at that maybe as a concern. I think where they lose games is the fact that they don't have any quick bowlers. All their fast bowlers are injured.
Yep.
Um, like they're. I mean, Shamajo. You mentioned Bretsky, who I'm a big fan of. I'd love to see him play. He's not going to be able to because Shamajo has to play. He's one of the only fast bowlers they've got. Mayak Yadav's injured. Who else is injured? I'm trying to think. Is Akash injured? I think. Um, they've got basically they've got no fast bowlers essentially. They're relying a lot on Ravi Bishnoi to take wickets with his spin, and I think he can be a little bit hit and miss. Good bowler, but can be a little bit hit and miss. It's similar to um, SRH in that their batters have got to win the game for them, but it's kind of more extreme because they it's not even the quality of fast bowlers that they've got. They literally just don't
They
have any
just don't
available.
have any.
I think they're signing Shardul Thakur, which is a shame for Essex because he was meant to play in the county championship. Um, but back to the IPL, that's obviously an experience signing, and importantly, the fast bowler, which they currently have none of. So that's where LSG will probably fall down, in my opinion. It's not even necessarily a lack of quality; it's just the fact that they don't have any seamers. So yeah,
Do we know if Mayank Yadav's going to play at all this tournament?
think I've got a feeling I read he's available for the second half, but like not even having him available for the first half is kind of a big blow. It's not even like Mumbai Indians obviously don't have Bumrah, but they've got Trent Bolt particularly. Shamar Joseph is a good bowler, but not on Trent Bolt levels in terms of an impact. And filling in for Bumrah is obviously tough, but Trent Bolt's got that experience. But I don't think Shamar Joseph necessarily has the experience. Not disputing his quality, it's more just about experience in the IPL. The heat at the moment, does he have that ability to lead an attack? And I'm not too sure, especially when they've got no quick bowlers, as I say. So
Yeah, I
that'll be
mean,
interesting.
even if Mitch Marsh plays, he's not going to bowl, is he?
No, I don't think I don't
Because of
think
his
he's fit
injury.
enough to. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, of course, I completely forgot about Mitch Marsh. But I just say he won't be able to bowl anyway. So
Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine if he hasn't already been shut down by. Actually, would Cricket Australia shut him down now? Is Mitch Marsh even part of Australia's plans? I'm not 100% sure.
maybe they would like to keep him in the reserve. Like it's still in the picture. I mean, obviously he was the Allen Border Medal winner last year, so he obviously must be relatively in that you don't just fall off the face of the earth that quickly from the Cricket Australia point of view, I guess. But I don't know. I'd be surprised if he did bowl. But yeah, as I
Yeah.
say, LSU are a good side. They just don't have any seamers, and that's where they'll just massively struggle.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they score 300 and it's chased down. That's kind of
100%. Yeah,
where I sit
yeah,
with this Lucknow team. Is just yeah, they went kind of Marsh, Markram, Buran, and Miller is a great kind of 4 out of your 5 that you've got, but then you've used all of your overseas.
yeah.
You don't have any more. That's it. That's all you have. I mean, Puran scored, I don't know, 10,000 runs in T20s last year. Didn't he have the most successful or the most amount of runs in any year for any player in T20 cricket? It
Yeah.
probably tells you more about cricket worldwide rather than it does about Puran, and especially West Indies cricket. He had a great year. I think they'll be great with a bat, as you said. They just don't have anyone that can bowl for them. I
The worst thing
couldn't.
is, it's not even like their fault in the auction. They could obviously, looking back on the auction, they could have maybe recruited better, but they're still recruiting a kind of unit of quick bowlers. Um, it's just unlucky, really, I guess. And maybe it's such a shame that he won't be available because he's X Factor. Hopefully, he plays in the back end of the tournament.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, Mayank Yadav was one of my highlights from last year. He was so
I agree.
exciting to
Yeah,
watch.
yeah.
Just people bowling fast is fun.
It
I
is.
think
It is.
I think we should do more of it. Moving on to Punjab Kings. They finished second from bottom last year. Very weird year. I mean, Sam Curran was captain for most of it. Um, they've put together a better team this year. It's not quite as well rounded as I wanted it to be. There's definitely a case of they just picked the best player possible and not 100% sure if they fit into the side. They're probably going to open with Prab Simran Singh and Josh Inglis. And then there's going to be a middle order. Shreyas Iyer is going to be in there. Glenn Maxwell's going to be in there. Omazai's going to be your all rounder. Shashank Singh's going to be an all rounder. Marco Janssen's going to be an all rounder. It looks really good on paper. Can it all come together? I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, they have, in terms of, I mean, they really ripped up the kind of side
Mm.
from last year and restarted. They've obviously got a new coach. They've got Ricky Ponson. He went very Australia heavy. I'm pretty sure they tried to sign Nathan Ellis and got outbid. I think, if I remember correctly, they've obviously got quite a few Australians in there. Um, Ponson is, for me, the kind of best. I know his maybe win or trophies or records, things like that. Don't necessarily suggest it, but for me, the best coach in the world in terms of his cricket in mind is extraordinary. Like I love listening to him on commentary, and I could just listen to that guy talk about cricket all day. And he's just extraordinary to listen to. So that's why I think one reason why I think they'll do well. I think Shreyas Iyer's a good captain. Obviously, he won the IPL as captain last year. Um, and they've got a lot of experience. Like this is such an experienced side. Chahal is very experienced. Um, and then obviously you got Maxwell, Stoinis. Marco Janssen cost them 7 crore. Like he's one of the best all rounders in the world. I don't know how more sides didn't try and bid for Marco Janssen. Again, there's another player that maybe CSK could have looked to pick up in the auction as that kind of difference maker with the ball, but again, a whole different debate. Um,
Rajasthan with no all rounders in
exactly.
their
There
team.
you go. There you go. They probably have too many all rounders. Like they've got Stoinis, Aaron Hardy, Janssen, and Amazai, who they're all basically trying to fit into 2 spots. Hardy is probably the one who's least likely to play. Jansen's probably the one who's guaranteed to play. So it's between Stoinis and Omazai. And I think it depends what they're kind of looking for. Omazai obviously offers more with the ball. Stoinis is kind of probably more of a genuine batter. So it kind of depends what they're looking for with that. But yeah,
I,
I like
I'd
them.
I'd go Omazai personally. I
Yeah,
think he
fair enough. I
showed.
also probably would, but I actually think they'll probably go Stoinis. I mentioned obviously Ponson picks a lot of Australians. I guess probably trusts the people he's picked, and having Maxwell, Stoinis, and Inglis in your side as an Australian coach is probably quite, at least for the start of the tournament, where you're kind of putting the feelers out and seeing how your side goes is probably the way I think you'll go. But I think Josh Inglis will have a good tournament as well. I'm excited to see how he goes. Obviously, really good in the Champions Trophy. He's such a good player of spin. I imagine he'll open the batting, but he's someone who's just getting a bat through. He's someone who can easily go and get kind of 80, 90, 100 pretty consistently. I think he could be an outsider for Orange Cap at the end of the tournament because I think he's in such good form. Someone who's such a good player of spin, so you're not going to be kind of worried at the end of the power play. Yeah, I think he's great. So I like Punjab Kings squad. I have them just missing out on playoffs, but I think they'll actually do quite well this year. And as I say, Ponting's the best coach in the world, the best cricketing mind in the world, in my opinion, or at least one of them. And
The problem I have with Ponting is that I agree he is an absolutely fantastic cricketing mind, and I could listen to him talk about cricket all day. The issue I have is that has his brain caught up with modern cricket yet? Has
yeah,
he has he
that's a good
got to
point.
that has he got to that point where a kind of T20 cricket has got to where 25 off 12 is better than 60 off 40? Has he got to that point yet? I don't think he has. There's a lot of comments that comes out and be like, well, no, well, he could be the anchor of our T20 side. Anchors don't exist anymore. It's especially in the IPL. It is go out and try and hit the ball as hard as you can for as long as you can in the right areas. That's kind of what T20 batting has got to. That's the only thing that would worry me having Ricky Ponting as a coach. I get that he's a fantastic cricketing mind and will know what is happening in the game before anyone else. Is it a little bit outdated? Would be my
I
worry.
definitely see your point. I think it's something that we'll kind of see throughout the tournament. As I say, I definitely think he'll put his trust in Maxwell Stoinis English at the start of the tournament. Obviously, Janssen is the other overseas. And with Shreyas Iyer as captain, he's someone who's not just won the IPL, obviously. You can almost kind of, I guess, guide him through Ponting,
Yeah.
guide Ponting through if he kind of needs that. But I guess that's something we'll have to kind of revisit at the end of the tournament, I suppose. But I definitely see your point, and that will be interesting to see how that kind of plays out.
Yeah, and they've obviously got Arshdeep Singh as well, who's another one who's going to really benefit from this two new ball rule as well. Whether it's a new ball, whether it's a 10 over ball, or whatever it is. I mean, he's India's leading T20 wicket taker. I mean, he is seriously, especially at the start of that power
Didn't
play.
even mention Aston.
Um,
Completely forgot about. I don't know how I overlooked him. I mean, yeah, he's someone I mentioned. Um, Shami and Cummings will benefit from that. I think Stark will benefit from that massively, and Arshdeep as well is another one who will just again. I don't think it's like a brand new ball. I don't think he's got swinging around corners, but it's a ball that you can hold without it being completely soaked by like the dew obviously on the ground. And I think that will probably balance. I do think that will actually balance things out. And I definitely think that makes setting a total far better for nighttime games now than chasing because especially because if you've got that X factor quick bowler like Punjab Kings do in Arshdeep, that's gonna make such a big difference. If you had 2 overs, if you had 2 overs in the power play and then overs 10 and 12, he could go and pick up 3, 4 wickets easily. So I definitely think Arshdeep is in for a good tournament again.
yeah, I agree. Um, I've got them just missing out in the playoffs, kind of
Yep,
middle of the pack, five,
I agree.
six,
Yeah,
seven around there.
I agree.
I just can't see it quite coming together. Now, finally, the last team of the tournament, Gujarat Titans. They finished third from last year. I think if I wanted to pick a top three to just sit there and watch, Shubman Gill, Sai Sudharsan, and Josh Butler are probably up there of who I could just watch bat all day. And there's going to be a lot of times where they're going to be 100 for one, 120 for one, kind of pushing that score up there. The issue that I'd have is that if we start to see 220 plus scores, they could lack a bit of explosiveness. I don't think Butler is necessarily like a Travis Head or an Abhishek Sharma that we've seen really attack the power play. Yeah, he can score 100, but it will be 100 off 60. It won't be 100 off 40. Same with Shubman Gill. Same with Syed Suharsan. That's where I think they're going to struggle. But they have good middle order options in Glenn Phillips, Tawatia. Rashid Khan can come in at the end and give it a whack. And obviously, you've got Rashid Khan with the ball. You can pencil him in 1 for 20, 2 for 20, somewhere around then. And Rabada and Siraj are going to front up the pace attack. That looks pretty good on paper, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think probably bowling first suits them best.
Yep.
Because for the reasons you just said, if they going to need to set 220, obviously again we don't know the kind of path throughout the tournament, the average score throughout the tournament. Last year was ridiculous, previous years hasn't been. Um, so I think bowling first will suit them, and they're in control of that chase. they've got so much experience. Butler, Gill, um, Sid and then obviously Phillips. I actually think Rutherford will potentially get into the side ahead of Phillips. For me, Rutherford's one of the best wide ball all-rounders in the world. And the fact that he can obviously bowl, I know Phillips bowls lots, but Rutherford's like a genuine all-rounder. Um, I think that maybe edges him out certainly at the start of the tournament. Again, that might be kind of condition dependent. But they've got a lot of good players. Obviously, Washington Sundar is fantastic. I think this is a really good side, and I have Gujarat Titans going at least to the playoffs. Because yeah, they're you mentioned their top three of Butler, Gill, Sudhasan is arguably the best in the tournament. Sudhasan is just an extraordinary player. And obviously, a lot of his IPL exploits have been kind of done around the world. He should be playing Test cricket, in my opinion, as well. Brilliant red ball player, genuine all format cricketer. Gill and Butler are just a joke. I think Butler will see the best of him. He's obviously not burdened with captaincy, nothing to do with England this tournament, obviously, and that's obviously been kind of a tough kind of few months for him, or few well, longer, I guess, a couple of years really. He can just go out and bat, and I think we'll see the best of Josh Butler. I assume we'll take the gloves as well, which for me makes him a better batter. So I really like this team. Their bowling attack's great. Rashid Khan, KD Rabada, Siraj, Sundar. Like they're just a really good side. And I think they'll do very very well. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Siraj we get. Obviously, dropped from the Champions Trophy side. He's going to want to get back into the Indian side.
He's got a real
Um,
point to prove.
yeah,
Obviously a
so
bit summer as well. It's that kind of English summer, following on from the IPL for him. So he'll want to be in good form.
yeah, he will. I like this team. The only thing that would worry me is if we do start seeing 220 plus scores, couple of bad tosses. I actually think of Ahmedabad will probably suit them with the batters that they've got. Gill, Butler, and Sudhasan are all going to be happy just to knock the ball round, look for
It's huge there,
twos.
isn't it? So they're not going to be necessarily crashing sixes. It's in terms of like dimensions, like batting at the MCG in many ways.
Hmm.
You're not going to go to the MCG and expect to score 230 in a T20 game. It's just not really possible with the boundary dimensions. So
Yeah, I think if they're playing at home, if you're playing on a flat one at Chinnaswamy, then maybe you'd struggle because you got to put 250 on. But yeah, I like Gujarat. I could see them being in and around the playoffs. I'm not sure if I necessarily have them 100% in. I like the team. I think they've got one of the best. They've got one of
they
the
were the
best
side.
top three.
They were the side who I mentioned earlier about a couple of sides. Kind of, I was unsure about. They were the side who I kind of picked ahead of CSK to just sneak in. And RCB was the other one. They Gujarat Titans were the side who I think were just sneaking ahead of them.
Mm,
Um, I just think they're a sick team, and as I say, if they can bowl first and kind of be in control of their target with the bowling attack they've got, they should be in control of their target. They've got good death bowlers, good spinners. They're a good side, and if they can, as they can bowl first, I think they'll do well.
okay. Joe, your four playoff teams, if possible, please.
Yes. So in no particular order, I'll go with um, Mumbai Indians, Delhi Capitals, Sunrisers Hyderabad, and Gujarat Titans as my four.
Mine is going to be make some IPL stakeholders very happy. I've got RCB, CSK, Mumbai Indians. So the big three are all in for me. And I've been convinced with Gujarat, I think they are going to be um, in the in the playoffs as well. In terms of who is going to take the most wickets.
Yeah, maybe a bit boring. I'll give two in that case. I've gone with Varun Chakravarti because he's incredible. I mentioned Bumrah could finish as leading wicket taker, but I said he could still do that within 10 games, but I just don't think there'll be enough time. Who knows when he's going to come back? Might be 5, 6 games into the tournament, in which case it could be too far. So I'll go with Varun Chakravarti for that reason. And then I'll also say I think Mitchell Stark will do very well. He's well rested, crucially. This second ball rule could play into his hands really well, as I mentioned as well. And he's expensive, but a wicket taker. He's such a good Yorker bowler, brilliant at the death. I just think Mitchell Stark as a leader of that attack for Delhi Capitals. If theirs to go far, he'll need to do well. And I think I think he's going to be up there for leading wicket.
Mine is also relatively boring. I'm going with Trent Bolt.
Fair enough.
I think he's going to take a load of wickets at the start. Again, that new ball's probably going to help him. He's going to have Boomer at the other end for the other half of the games, and they're going to want to try and attack Trent Bolt at the start. And the worst thing you can do in a power play is try to attack Trent Bolt because he just takes wickets. What about top run scorer?
Again, I've gone boring, so I'll give two. So my actual answer would be, well, I kind of caught between two. One is Tilak Varma. I just think he's a great player. I just think he's going to have a good tournament. There's not really a particular reason. Mumbai are a great side. I talked about that earlier, obviously. I just think he is going to be a big beneficiary of that. I assume he'll bat three, maybe four, depending on where Sky wants to bat. And having kind of that always protection behind him off Surek Mayadov, um, Mitchell Santner, Hardik Pandya. I just think he's going to be able to explode, and I think he's going to have a great tournament. I also think Virat, I mentioned again, in great form. That'll carry on hopefully into this tournament. He was the leader in run scorer last year by a landslide, like 700 odd runs. Ridiculous tournament, ridiculous player still. Even if people try and write him off, like you don't write people like that off. It's not that easy. So I think he'll do really well. And my other kind of non-boring answer, I guess, is Travis Head, who was there or thereabouts last season. He had a strike rate in the 190s. And if he can replicate that, there's no reason why he can't just go and score, again, 700 runs. He's the kind of guy who could easily go and get 300s in this IPL. 300s, 550s. Obviously, that's a ridiculous tournament, but he's that good. And I think he will be a serious contender for the Orange Cup.
I'm going to pick Jaiswal as my top run scorer because I think that Rajasthan Royals are going to be awful, but they have to still score some runs. And I think it's probably going to be down to Jaiswal or Sanju Samson. I think you'll probably get decent odds on one of the two. And you see it often when there's a really bad team and there's just one bloke that scores a load of runs and is the only one that's making them competitive. I could see that happening, so I'm going to go with Jaiswal. He's going to be a little bit upset that he's been left out of the India white ball teams, and he's going to have a bit of a point to prove. So I think he's probably one of the best, if not the best, young batsman in the world at the moment. So that's who I'm going to pick. Okay, we should probably pick a winner.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm torn. I am torn between two teams. And those two teams are between Mumbai and CSK. I like both of those teams a lot.
Classic experience.
And I'm gonna go for that exact reason. I'm gonna go with CSK. Think they know how to win, and I'm gonna go CSK to win it all. And then Sam Curran's made England T20 captain. Joe, what do you reckon? Who's gonna win it all?
Sunrise and Hyderabad. I'm sticking my neck on the line. I think we've spoken about their kind of um, weaknesses, I guess, is the word to use. With their batting depth, they can be flexible with that. Impact subs are going to play a big part for them as well. And that top four, if one of them fires per game, they're going to go and get 200, I reckon. It only takes one of that top four to go and get a 70, 80, and the others to kind of chip in. Well, 70, 80 plus, really. The others kind of chipping around them. The bowling attack's pretty good. Cummins is, as I mentioned, the best captain in the world, in my opinion. Um, I just think that they're going to do really well, and I think they'll just bat teams out the game like they did last year. So yeah, that's why I've gone for Sunrise.
So I get to listen to more Australians tell me how many more trophies they've got in their trophy cabinet, because I'm sure Pat Cummins will also take that back to the MCG and put it in the trophy cabinet there. I'm sure that's what they'll all tell me if they can be bothered to wake up and watch the actual tournament. That's put a big downer for me, that end of that podcast. Pat Cummins winning something else because he hasn't won enough already. Oh well, is what it is. That is the IPL done. We'll be back tomorrow for a recap of who's playing. KKR, RCB playing tomorrow. So we'll be
Although it's
back.
probably going to get rained off. So
If it gets rained off, we won't be back. We'll be back on Sunday with MICSK and Sunrisers versus Rajasthan Royals. Jesus Christ, that could be terrible for for my team
Tough start.
on
Tough
Sunday.
start.
Oh, I can't wait to concede 350 and watch Travis Head lift his helmet on his
Score one
back
of his
again.
300s and 550s probably.
Can't wait for it. But guys, thank you very much for listening. If you haven't already, go and check out Joe. He's fantastic in what he does, incredibly knowledgeable, which I'm sure you know from this podcast. All of his links will be down in the description or the show notes. Make sure you follow, subscribe, like, leave a review, leave a rating, whatever you can do on your preferred platform provider. And I'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow. If not, I'll see you Sunday night.